Hey all, SMK Gaming here. Today we are once again going to go over recoil in Battlefield 6. There are multiple ways in which you can reduce the appearance of recoil and make the physical act of controlling it easier. See all those no recoil videos creators use to promote weapon builds? Most of those players, including myself, will be doing this, and it's a large reason why I never feel the need to put an underbarrel grip attachment on my weapon. Most underbarrel attachments help with recoil control, but I instead choose to invest my points elsewhere in my builds because I feel the recoil is fine to control, and that is largely due to what I'm going to show you here today. Shown on screen now are the chapters to this video should you wish to skip to a particular part, or if you're coming back again to rewatch, you can select that part you wish to watch again. One thing I want to make clear from the very beginning of this video is that none of what I will explain to you today changes how much recoil you get in game. It will not change those recoil values, but the changes I discuss and recommend will certainly make a difference in how easy you find controlling that recoil. First up is field of view, zoom magnification and visual recoil. All three go hand in hand. The higher your field of view, the more your image is stretched across the available space shown on your screen. Here's the field of view maxed out to 120. The easily seen benefit here is you gain greater peripheral vision. You can see all the targets and the sides of the firing range cubicle. The drawback is the targets are more difficult to spot. A lower field of view is like putting blinkers on a horse. You lose that peripheral vision, but targets become more easily seen. Here you can no longer see the sides of the cubicle. Here is a real game example. The player is in view with the higher field of view, but is not with the lower field of view. Both players to the left and right, as well as above, have now completely disappeared. You can no longer see them. I have now overlaid the 85 field of view on top of the 120 field of view, and you can really see the difference here that it makes. That 85 field of view image is what will be stretched across your entire screen. You could be missing out on vital information around you if you play with such a low field of view. A higher field of view can also give the appearance that you are running faster. I always get asked when streaming, how am I running so fast? A higher field of view can give this impression. A lower field of view can make the running appear slow and sluggish. But how do the changes in field of view affect recoil? Watch how much my crosshair bounces around when firing at a low field of view. I've put a dot center screen to show the deviation. I am trying to control the recoil here, but there's a lot of visible movement. Now exactly the same scenario but with a field of view maxed out. Some difference here, isn't there? The recoil is far less visible with the field of view set higher. Some of this recoil is visual recoil, however. It's fake recoil where the gun jitters when firing and the crosshair bounces from center screen. The recoil programmed into the game I am attempting to control as best I can. The higher field of view will help diminish the visual recoil also. The visual recoil added to the game will be different for each gun. This will present itself as a deviation of your crosshair from center screen. This sometimes is also referred as gun jitter, i.e. fake recoil. But as I said, the appearance of this can't be diminished by increased field of view. Here's the maximum deviation from center screen detected for each field of view. You can see the appearance is much greater in the lower field of view. I have another test to show you here now. No recoil control this time. I'm going to pause the firing after 20 bullets. Both attempts have the exact same levels of recoil here. It may not look it, but they do. If I draw a marker from the top of the blue container up to in line with the crosshair on both sets of tests, look at the difference here. The lower field of view test is quadruple the length of the higher field of view test. The lower field of view test has a bigger disparity indicating more recoil, but the recoil values are exactly the same. This is the effect of a higher field of view. It is literally a free and easy way to reduce the appearance of recoil. But there's more. Zoom magnification and weapon field of view also help reduce the appearance even further. Let me show you. I will now compare the same weapon with a time zone optic and the weapon field of view set to wide. Then compare against the previous two scenarios. I will first show the visual effects when attempting to control the recoil under fully automatic fire. That ×1 optic move around far less than the ×2.5 low field of view test, but more importantly, it also moved around less than the ×2.5 high field of view scenario also. Here's it slowed down. This is without any attachments to help with recoil control. Next, the scenario when the recoil is not controlled. First I will run it through at full speed and then slow down. Like before, I will pause it when 20 bullets have been fired and draw those lines on screen to highlight any differences present. Once again, there is an improvement. Not as much as the first two scenarios tested, but there is another. The on-screen visualization of the recoil when using the ×1 optic is half of that when comparing to its high field of view counterpart but using a ×2.5 scope. Now let's compare the extremes here by removing the middle test. Now these really are extremes, aren't they? What else can you really say? It's all shown here. Just let me remind you, it is the exact same loadout, the only difference is the scope, and then on top of that, the field of view is different as well as the weapon field of view. One is wide, one is narrow. On the low field of view, high zoom magnification test, the recoil represented in this is 8 times greater compared to the ×1 optic with the wide weapon field of view and the 120 field of view. This makes controlling the recoil so much easier. But should you copy these exact settings though? No, I am not suggesting everyone goes and use only ×1 optics and 120 field of view. Not even I do that. I do use ×1 optics with most of my weapons, however I play at 110 field of view. I play the game at a desk with a 1440p 27-inch monitor about 50cm from my face. I have no issue seeing targets at all. Your situation may be completely different to mine and you play on a big TV and sit further back. Most simply won't like the 120 field of view also, but I think a 105 to 110 field of view will be good for most, and never ever put a scope on a fully automatic weapon that is greater than ×3 magnification. Please don't do it folks, the ability to see further will be far outweighed by the increased visual recoil and very poor peripheral vision. I now want to move on to ways in which you control the recoil better now. This is more informational rather than telling you what to use. Both relate to changes you can make in your settings. The higher your infantry zoom sensitivity, technically greater the potential you have in controlling recoil. This is because you're required to perform less movement on the right stick. However, bear in mind that your chosen sensitivity here to aid recoil control, you must also balance with acquiring and tracking targets. There's absolutely no point in having a high sensitivity which helps you control recoil, but you're all over the place in trying to acquire and track a target because it's so high. Additionally, if you're a heavy-handed player, then high sensitivity won't work for you here. You may prefer a lot of movement on the sticks, as a high sensitivity causes too much movement when you're trying to move the sticks around. So what I'm basically trying to say here is, your chosen sensitivity must work well not only for controlling your recoil, but for acquiring your targets. So choosing what another content creator, streamer, someone like myself is using isn't going to work for you. Instead, I wish to guide you to choose the best settings for you and your playstyle. So please keep that in mind as I show you what I use. I use a 100% soldier stick sensitivity and a 100% soldier aim ADS sensitivity, which means my sensitivity when aiming down sight is roughly half of my hip fire. I also play with uniform infantry aiming turned off. Now recently I've been accused of being a cheater, a mouse and keyboard player, because my infantry stick sensitivity is set at 100%. I've used this sensitivity since 2016 and I have always made it clear that this is what I'm using. The players accusing me of this even went as far to say that I completely forgot to change it back when I showed it in one of my videos, as if I was trying to hide it. No, I'm not hiding anything, I use 100% and I have multiple videos out there showing as much. Another way that recoil control can be made easier via the settings is vertical aim ratio. I like my movement up and down to feel the same as my movement to the left and right, so I have set mine to 100%. I do not encourage you to change this, but it can help with recoil control and I want to cover all bases here. Changing this will increase the sensitivity of vertical movement to the same as horizontal movement. This in many ways can make the vertical aiming feel a little bit more sensitive to the horizontal movement because the large majority of screens we will ever play on have that 16:9 widescreen ratio. I do feel that if most change this, it will actually cause more issues over any potential benefits. Where I do find it quite useful myself isn't even when controlling the recoil, it's when I'm looking up or down trying to shoot an enemy. You may notice that with the default settings this can feel awkward and even harder to track enemies. For example, if they're parachuting through the air and they move towards you, or if they're running beneath you and you're above them. This is because your aim is slower in the vertical movement compared to horizontal. You have trained your aim in the horizontal plane. If you can master and learn to control recoil in this way, you will find you do not even need to add attachments to your weapons to help with this. You can invest those points in other areas. If not, then adding attachments to your weapons is my final piece of advice on controlling recoil. Most underbarrel attachments can help with recoil control. Most of the cheaper options do include a drawback for that recoil control. It is only the more expensive ones that greatly reduce the recoil without any negatives, but even then, some of them still do. If you followed any of the advice earlier in the video, you really shouldn't be needing those expensive ones. The prior guidance should have helped you lower the appearance of recoil enough so that the cheap attachments are viable and they do the rest for you. So folks, that's all I've got for you today. I really hope you find this video useful. If you did, please don't forget to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel and hype up the video if you can. Take care, and I will catch you again in the next one.